Live, you are live.
Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to the sunny northeastern autumnal corner of magnificent South Africa. That is not the elephant talking to you, it is in fact I, James R.A. Henry, freshly returned from my sojourn to various parts of the country on my leave. Before I go any further, I'm going to apologize to you profusely for the state of my sun hat. My sun hat, of course, I did try and replace yesterday at late stage. 7 stores were visited passively to their advantage by me. Unfortunately, none of them have a hat that had no brand on it. So I have duct taped this horrific thing together. It is still protecting my head from the beating African sun, and that is a good thing. It is marvellous to be back with you. Wiam is on camera. Hello, Wiam. Wiam resembles a very small version of Johannes Paulus Kruger, the erstwhile moniker for the Kruger National Park. He has got a substantial beard that has grown impressively in my absence. On the other vehicle, the inimitable Brent Leo Smith, he is being filmed by Brian, who is back from leave. His beard has been trimmed to perfection. His hair is lovely and flowing, just like those of Goldilocks. In the final control, we have also back from leave Kirsten McLennan-Smith. She's tapping the keys today, and Geraldine, the Cheesecake Kent, is directing today. Wonderful to have you with us. Wiam, could we look at the elephant rather than my disgusting hat for the next little while? Just to tell you, if you happen to have come across this site by mistake, or this YouTube stream by mistake, and you don't know what on earth's going on, you're on a live safari here in the magnificent Kruger National Park, the western fringes thereof, a piece called the Sabi Sands, which is a collection of private reserves, and we're on the western fringes of that little section on a reserve, beautiful little gem called Djuma, and we also traverse Arathusa off to the west of us. Isn't that a beautiful elephant? And that's a young bull, and I think he's going to go and have something to drink at the waterhole at Djuma, so I think we shall follow him. Thank you very much for all your kind comments and welcome backs. Very much appreciated. It is always a good thrill to the ego to say hello to so many welcome backs. Also, you are on a live safari, like I say, so please do talk to us. Questions at WildEarthTV if you're tweeting, like the yellow-fronted canaries in the tree above us. Otherwise, the YouTube chat stream, say that after 2 weeks leave, is working very well indeed. So you can talk to us on that too. Hello, let's go and see what we can find. There's an elephant here. There are apparently some lions about. There's apparently a leopard about with a hapless warthog that was fortunately met its end yesterday evening. So lots of action, and long may it remain so. I can't believe how green it's got. Of course, I'm sure everybody's been saying that. You know, everybody comes back from leave and says, wow, it's changed. And it does change. It doesn't matter if there'd been no rain, it would be substantially browner. But there's been a bit of rain, and it is all long, beautiful, verdant green grass. And it's such a comforting feeling, especially as the slightly autumnal temperatures have started to come to us. It doesn't feel like that, I suppose, to you. It is 34 degrees Celsius. That's 93 degrees Fahrenheit. But certainly the evenings are much cooler than they were in the morning. Even I had to put a small blanket over me while I was sleeping last night, so that was unusual. Haven't had to do that for 4 months. Hello, John. Oh dear, Wendy is a fairly nasty old bag. Anyway, she's not very happy to see me. John, you're a new viewer. You happened upon it last night. Well, you're most welcome, and thank you for telling us. Please feel free, like I say, to ask us questions or send us your comments. It'd be great to hear from you again, and it'd be great to answer any queries you might have about the magnificence that is the Greater Kruger National Park. I'm just going to turn the engine off. There's a whole lot of stuff going on at the water here, but that elephant over there is just a little bit nervous. Every time he moves, we turn the engine on, and so we'll just turn off and let him make his way down towards the water. Like I say, a young bull, probably just left the herd. He looks to be about 16 or 17 years old, maybe 18. And you can see he is streaming from the glands between his ears and eyes, the temporal glands. And all that means is that he's feeling a little bit of stress. Perhaps he's a bit lonely. I'm just going to move around the side. He pulled a face at the bushbuck there. Right, we're going to go down to the water here, and there are some buffalo, there's some bushbuck, there's some impala there. And we'll watch him have a bit of a drink. Here he is, straight in he goes. The great teeming herds of game for my first drive back, which is marvellous. Hello, young fellow. We'll just stop where we can get a decent view of him. There we go. Oh dear. Bit of conflict there. You see how the buffalo walked towards him. Now, animals, of course, are brilliant at reading each other's body language, and what I suspect you'll find is that buffalo perceives the slight nervousness of a young elephant like that. So he's a bit nervous because he's just recently left the herd. See? But it's not... it wasn't going to take too long for the balance of things to be restored. Ah, it's wonderful. And the smell is very, I don't know how you would describe it, very animalish, I suppose, like a very strong smell of horse all the way around here. There's elephant dung, buffalo dung.
Sour oros.
Like sour oros. Now, those of you, of course, in the United States or other parts of the world won't know what on earth oros is. This is brilliant. That elephant is not happy with the buffalo bull. And of course, the faster the buffalo bull runs, the more encouragement that elephant's going to have. Let's go down there and have a look. There's other buffalo here in the water. Seems to be pretty relaxed now. There we go. And there are a whole lot more in what is the Djuma Dam. That was a dry and desolate place for much of the last little while. And the other thing that you can smell, I'll explain oros to you just now, is these plants. These kind of very aromatic plants here with the butterflies in amongst them. And I don't know what most of them are, I'm afraid. A lot of very aromatic plants, and the name of which I do know, but I've forgotten. I might have to radio Brent. Anyway, we've got buffalo, we've got gooses, we've got more buffalo, and then the elephant now who's throwing mud all over himself. I don't want to go too much closer to him, just because he was a little bit nervous when we got too close, and I don't want to disturb his mud bath. This is wonderful, and it's amazing how this dry and desolate sort of dust bowl has turned into such a beautiful array of green life. Just stunning stuff. Hello, Canada Keith. You were tweeting to us all the way from Canada, I presume. You want to know if I've been caught up with everything while in camp. I think pretty much the goings-on that have been happening in the last 2 weeks have been fed through to me. VM the elephant is now sat down on his bottom and is now having a lie down. That is brilliant. So Canada Keith, yes, lots of wonderful stuff going on. Brent making hugely wonderful progress with Djuma the leopard, and certainly a few updates on Karula and on Shadow and her beautiful little cubs. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see them. And of course the fact that the Birmingham boys seem to have been spending a bit more time up here simply because the Salatis are spending more time on Buffels Hook, and so the boundaries are being reinforced between the coalition of the Birmingham boys and, of course, the two old Salati males to the north. You can see very clearly, of course, that he is a male. I'm not sure why that has sort of protruded while he was lying in the mud. But you will find that a young bull like this will go into very short periods of must. So very short periods where his testosterone levels will go up and then they'll drop again. So he won't go into a full-blown must like a big adult bull will. But maybe that might be one of the reasons. I suspect he's going to have a little scratch. No, he's going to leave that log alone. All around there's birds are calling, oxpeckers and doves, starlings, and he's thinking about approaching us. You see now he's trying to see if he has the confidence. Because he feels that he's a big mature bull now, which of course he isn't. Oh, here we go, this is wonderful. Hello, fellow. Hello, boy. So he's only about 3 feet from us now. Passing wind at a furious rate. Oh, that's just wonderful. Now, of course, if he was bigger, he'd be more confident, and then he probably would have stopped and given us a bit more of a look. But he wants to make sure that he can leave if he wants to. There you go. So a lot of this behavior is now curiosity. He's trying to decide whether he is actually as dominant as he thinks he is, as he thinks he should be. While we wait for him to decide, oh, here we go. Now he's showing us how big and tough he is. Now again, if this was a big 25-year-old or 30-year-old bull, we would be sort of trying to get out of the way by now, just simply because he'd be showing us discomfort, and you don't really want to tango with a big bull like that. This chap, however, if we sit still, is going to get used to us, and eventually he won't see us as a threat or as an irritation, which will bode well for his future, because if he gets older and very sort of what we call stroppy or upset, obviously that makes for slightly dangerous game viewing. Now Helen, while we watch him disappear there into this pretty hot autumn afternoon, you want to know about the woodland kingfishers, and you say you haven't heard them for a while, and have they started migrating? Certainly as I left here, they were starting to tone down. Definitely a noticeable reduction in the amount that they were calling. I haven't heard one since I've been back. They're gone, aren't they?
I've seen a couple.
You've seen a few?
Yeah, in the last few days.
Okay. So we've seen a few, Viam says, in the last few days, but probably not heard them, hey? Yeah. So they've stopped calling, Helen, and that means some of them will have gone already, and, excuse me, it's very bright. And others will be leaving, well, the rest will be leaving very soon. Sorry, that is horribly bright. And Helen, they go into equatorial Africa from Senegal all the way sort of basically in a broad band around the southern tip of the Sahara is where the woodland kingfisher will be. Let's have one last look at these buffalo. We'll just have a quick look at these buffalo, and then we'll send you across to Brent. It's just so lovely to see this, what was a fairly unattractive dust bowl at one stage, now turned into this sort of bowl of life. All sorts of butterfly species, citrus swallowtails, broad-bordered grass yellows, some brown-bordered whites. I'm not even going to try and get Viam to show them to you because it would be impossible. A couple of monarchs, it looked like, one or two guinea fowl butterfly. They're just very, very pretty indeed. All right, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith, find out what he's doing. I think he's got quite a nice beginning surprise for you.
Welcome to the Sunset Safari. And here we have Tingana, the male leopard we've been spending a lot of time with on the last couple of days, and he's resting up next to a pad. Welcome. My name is Leo Smith. On the back of the vehicle for the first time in 2 weeks making appearance is Brian Joubert. And sometimes together we're known as the Killer Bees. And hopefully we'll be able to keep up our good luck and carry on finding you guys the big cats of Africa. So for those of you who might have missed the sunrise safari, we found Tingana after quite a long track. He chased an unknown male leopard into the north, but now he's back and he's got a warthog carcass that is very smelly but lying under a tree where he left it, and he's made his way now to the edge of this pan. He's actually lying right in the mud for a little bit of cool. It is a scorching 34 degrees Celsius, which is a 90 something odd Fahrenheit, and he's definitely taking advantage of that cool mud next to the pan. So as leopards go, he's in the spot. It's like 5-star luxury hotel for a leopard here. He's got a spa, a nice little mud bath. He's got gourmet cuisine, only slightly ripe under the tree. And if he is threatened by hyenas or other predators, he does have a nice big tree he can take that warthog kill into. And you can see a nice full belly, but rather hot and uncomfortable, even though he's lying on the nice cool mud. So we've been having quite a fascinating little leopard drama play out over the last couple of days. We spent that incredible amount of time with that Djuma male leopard, who's very unrelaxed and has got chased eventually by Tingana. A little leopard drama play out over the last couple of days. We spent that incredible amount of time with that Djuma male leopard, who's very unrelaxed and has got chased eventually by Tingana. You'll often find leopards do this, and if they lie in one spot for too long, their body heats up the ground underneath them, so they'll move a little bit away and lie down again, which has happened here. So we're going to try move into a spot where we can get a bit better of a visual. And you hear another vehicle in the sighting, and that is Djuma, who's out on tracking team, and she has got her little brother visiting. So he has never seen a leopard in the wild, so isn't that incredible? So Jamie's just popped in to show him the beast that is Tingana. Now, we've spoken a little bit about the fact that he's probably the father of quite a few of the cubs around at the moment, and he will be defending this area from other male leopards, trying to ensure that those cubs make it through to adulthood, even though they might not be his. He definitely thinks they are, having mated a lot with a lot of these females. I'm just going to try and get into a good spot. Say when, Brian. There we go. And we have a question from Michelle asking why we are not going to Arathusa to see Shadow's cubs. Well, Michelle, they're on a quite a busy access road, in a very similar situation to where Karula had her cubs on an access road, and we didn't go there either. Now, we're not going to go see cubs till they're about 8 weeks old, 2 months old, when they're able to climb trees. So if there is a potential threat that comes along, we're not in any way a hindrance or in the way. So we will be waiting a little bit longer before we go view those cubs. So a big Safari Live welcome to Rob who's watching via YouTube. And as we have a look in front of Tingana there, we'll see there is a pan, quite a shallow, muddy little depression that has been filled by the rains. And Rob would like to know, do leopards ever swim like tigers and jaguars? Now, they can swim, but they often choose not to, Rob. Particularly in this area, there's no real need for them to swim. And we do not have any major flowing bodies of water. But certainly they can swim. And in places like the Okavango Delta, they will swim between islands. And also where I was in Gabon, they'll swim across swamps. So they do and can swim. But one must remember, a lot of animal behavior is rather area specific rather than species specific. So a leopard here will normally behave quite similar to a leopard, say, in the Okavango Delta. But because of their environment that they live in, they will have slightly different behavioral aspects, like the swimming of channels. Whereas this leopard's never had to swim across anything probably wider than a puddle. And even then he just jumps. I don't think we're going to get too much movement while the sun is beating down upon this beautiful big male. So why don't you guys let me know, should we stay or should we go, to quote The Clash. So if you'd like to stay with Mr. Tingana, who is going flat cat, pop me an email on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Or we can go see what else we can find. I heard a big breeding herd of elephants, sounded like they weren't too far away. They're bashing and crashing and rumbling and trumpeting. So we will definitely come back to visit him later on the safari. Hopefully he will start feeding again. But I think while it is beastly hot, he's going to snooze in the shade. Oh, did you see it, Brian? Oh no, they split. This is James was mentioning some of the butterfly species. We just wait a little bit to see if they stop. And you got that one there, is fluttering around. Of course, he now moves off at high speed. Well, we've got to get Brian on form. He's just got back from leave. We've got to get that muscle memory back, tracking butterflies at high speed. That orange butterfly that was flying off there is the African joker. Very interesting little butterflies. I do have a great love for some of the smaller creatures. And there we go. Speaking of one of the smaller creatures, let's have that. Is a foam nest frog, but those tadpoles have hatched. You can see the holes in it. So those eggs have hatched and the tadpoles have burrowed their way through and dropped into the water. Probably when the pan was a little bit deeper. Now, we'll see if we can. And what's going to be quite fun is definitely later tonight, towards the end of the sunset safari, because of where Tingana's kill is, we're going to have some fun. We'll definitely have some frogs around this pan. And the frogs have been relatively quiet compared to the past years with the very low rainfall we've had this year. Sleepy cat. Okay, so we're going to leave Mr. Kitty Cat flat in the shade. Tony in London says, come on, Brent, let's go find some dogs. Oh, Tony, I would love to. I really would, but unfortunately they're a bit far away at the moment. The last I heard, they were way down south, but that doesn't mean they couldn't appear later on this evening or tomorrow morning. So fingers crossed, and our carnival streak continues. So I think I'm going to go see if we can find some ellies. I do know those are around. But while we move off, and let's go see what James is up to.
Hello everybody, back again. We've left the buffalo. They are still lying in the mud, which looks like a good place to be. Reports of the Birmingham boys from this morning. We'll go and see if they're there. I'm pretty sure they'll be lying pretty flat. But because we do have a fairly extended night drive at the moment, I think what you'll find is that we will leave them to sleep off the heat of the day and then join them as it gets a little bit darker and cooler. Because otherwise, well, looking at lions at this time of the day can generally put a man to sleep. I just cannot get over again how green it's got. Hello, Janet in Baltimore and many others. If you want to know what I was doing on my leave, well, various bits and pieces. I'm just looking for tracks quickly. VM did spot a female leopard or male leopard track back there, but given that you already have Tingana, I think it's quite likely that it was him from yesterday evening. Well, we're not sure. Well, what I did was I spent some time with my family. I went to a wedding initially, not my own wedding. A friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, where I played the guitar quite a lot. And then I had to make a couple of speeches, which was quite fun. And then I went to Johannesburg to see that the economic hub of the continent is still indeed functioning in my absence, and it seems to be doing rather well without me there, much to my joy and delight. And then we had Easter as a family together up in the mountains, not too far from here, near a town called Sabi, which is an inescapably dubious settlement, but there are various beautiful spots around the place that we stay, and we stayed at one of those. So that was very nice indeed. And that in summary is what I did. I did record some of my book for audiobook, but it didn't get quite as far as I'd hoped, about 60 pages in, 320 odd, so I've still got about 260 odd to go. But we'll do that over the course of the next few weeks. I am struggling to hear at the moment. That is not a defect in my ear, born of loud music at the wedding that I went to. It is a function of this earpiece, so we may have to turn it on and go home to get another one. But let's go and check if those lions are there first. The smells also, as a result of the rain, are just magnificent. Flowers, definitely. But it's difficult to identify them as I drive along here. There was an extremely sweet scent as we drove up through there. It smelled like a sort of really extra sweet jasmine. So that's really nice. I find the smells out here, especially after a bit of rain, to be my highlight. Such a sense of comfort. We had that really kind of rich, how would we put it, quite a sort of tropical, aromatic smell at the dam. Jerry, I don't know if you got through that question, but I cannot hear, I'm afraid. Try once more. A question about the woodland kingfisher. Didn't get the name, I'm afraid. We will sort this out during the course of the drive. It's obviously quite violent smells of fresh elephant dung. Sandy, I think you wanted to know if a different kingfisher will come in and replace the woodland kingfisher when it migrates. No, absolutely not. The reason that birds migrate away from an area is because there is insufficient food in the winter months to sustain them. So the woodland kingfisher will go off to the north, into the summer parts of Africa. What's that there, Via? Giant lion tracks heading towards where you think the lions are, probably. Was any luck? Yes, I've missed VM's slightly sardonic outlook on life while I've been away. So birds go away because there's not enough to eat, and so it would be, well, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for a woodland kingfisher to fly all the way into Senegal and up into sort of equatorial Africa if he could stay here. And the only reason he'd stay here would be if there was enough to eat. And of course, the woodland kingfisher is largely an insect eater, will eat frogs and that sort of thing, both of which are in far greater abundance during the summer months than they are in the winter. So that's why they go away. As is the same with the bee eaters and that sort of thing. What was that, Liam? let's go back across to Brent. I'm sure he's got something interesting to tell you.
So we are in that area where I heard those elephants breaking branches, rumbling and communicating. And look at this, James hasn't even been on a drive for 40 minutes and he's managed to destroy an earpiece. Tisk Commander Bond. But great to have him back. He is a dear friend and very excited to have him back. I need someone to tease every now and then. So these eddies sound like they've gone into this very thick area. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop round in the hope that they might have popped out into the open and are on their way to Sydney's waterhole. And we were chatting about butterflies. I know James mentioned them as well. And of course I've made a big push at butterflies this wet season. And of course the wet season wasn't very wet. And I'm going to try see if we can find the instar final larvae of the African vagrants again. And they're feeding off a very specific senna. So it makes them easier to find. Those caterpillars are incredible. They actually feel like sandpaper, and they're very beautiful, that sort of emerald, almost shiny emerald green. You can almost imagine them being wrapped around as some form of jewelry. So lots of eddy tracks crossing to and from here. Now, with a lot of water that we've still got from that late summer rain, there's lots of mud wallows. They're not as concentrated as they once were. I definitely feel like the rain is done for this part of the wet season. I think next time we're going to be seeing any rain is in November. So it's amazing. There was just a sudden climatic change. It's still hot, but it's a very dry heat. It's not that humid heat, and the mornings have got that nip to them. It has been absolutely spectacular. The temperature has been almost perfect at the moment. And just so everyone remembers, I think I've got this down. I might be wrong and I might make a whoopsie, but I'll try anyway. We are changing times from tomorrow. We're moving through to the winter times, and the safaris will be starting half an hour later, and they will be starting in Central African time. We'll be going out at 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the sunrise safari. Eastern Standard Time, we're starting at 12 midnight and ending at 3 a.m. And then Pacific Western, we will be starting at 9:30 p.m. ending at 12:30 a.m. And that is the sunrise safari. Sorry, it's a very funny looking track here. Looks very much like a drag mark. And I think it is a drag mark. Let me just have a closer look here. Now, I don't think this is Tingana's drag from the hyena, although he was running around this area. In particular, is the baby elephant playing. He got me for a while, and then I finally saw his little footprint in there. He looks like he was having a right old whale of a time. So back to the times before I forget. So as I was saying, and that was the sunrise safaris, the sunset safaris. Oh no, see, I've lost my train of thought. That baby elephant, I thought I was going to get it whacked down without having to check what it is, but I'm afraid I have to check. I've forgotten the sunset safari times. And okay, so we got the sunrise down, but now the sunset. Okay, I know the Central African time, it'll be half an hour later. It's 15:30 p.m. to 18:30 p.m. Eastern Standard 09:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and Pacific Western 06:30 a.m. to 09:30 a.m. There we go. Hopefully that is not too confusing. I know you guys have lots of daylight savings and all sorts of stuff, so hopefully that helps to clarify when the safaris are going to be going out. And there's Chris and Fan. Enjoy, guys. So not much happening here. Those elephants haven't seemed to come out of the block yet, as I was hoping. We will do another loop around. There are a large group of waterbuck down there. Sure, that's the biggest herd of waterbuck we've seen in a while. So yesterday, apparently the young ones were particularly playful when you caught up with them with Jamie. And I think let's leave those poor waterbuck to fiddle around to the north of our traverse area. And we're going to do another little loop down. I'm going to throw a bit of caution to the wind, so to speak. And I know Karula was found on this morning's sunrise safari in the south, so below our traverse area. But you never know with the Queen of Djuma when she might decide to grace us with her presence. We know that Mr. Tingana is going to be a very flat, fat cat for the foreseeable future. I think we'll come back. Oh, zebra's trotting in from the Manuletti for a drink. So those who've been watching over the last couple of weeks from before we had this late rain will notice we're seeing a lot less zebras than we were, and that's because of this green flush, and they've spread out and are not so concentrated. Now, of course, as it gets drier, we are going to start seeing more and more zebras again as they concentrate on the permanent water points. Looks like two young stallions rather than a herd. So you will get little bachelor groups of zebras until they get big enough to challenge for their own little harem of females. So zebra males don't hold territory, they're nomadic, but they will hold harems. So they will defend their little group of ladies quite aggressively against other suitors. So Temba, welcome on the Sunset Safari, Temba. And Temba is a very smart person because Temba says those time changes are not a problem at all. I arrange my sleep around drive times. That's what I like to hear, Temba. Great to have you on the back, and please feel free to send us any questions about what you're wondering about, what we're seeing or what we're not seeing, or something you might have wondered about the African bush. For those of you who are new and are not sure, there are a couple of different ways to get through to us, but the most reliable two ways to get your question answered live on the drive is to pop an email to questions@wildearth.tv, or just use the hashtag Safari Live when you tweet on the Twitter. What are you little birdies alarming at? I've got this little chin spot batter, so you got him, Brian? Okay, zoom. There we go. So he's upset at something. Oh, off he went. It could be a snake. It could have been a predatory bird that's just passed by. And you can actually hear their little wing flicks. So you hear that little tap tap? That is actually not them, it's their wings making a noise, and they do that when they have been spooked by something. Just try and move a bit forward. Oof. Wonder what has upset them so. Just hear that high-pitched little... That's a Battis alarm call. Chin spot Battis is a type of fly catcher. There we go. Oh, it flew off. I can't see anything. It could have been a passing slender mongoose. It could have been a passing sand snake. So nothing we can see that's out there obvious, but it always pays to check these little things. And your ears often will find you an animal long before your eyes do. So as we move away from Sydney's waterhole, James Richard saying he's still holding thumbs that one day we see a lion hunt there, because that lovely open plain, it'll give us the most incredible angle. Well, what hunts have we seen there? We've seen a wild dog hunt there, a couple actually. The last wild dog hunt we saw there was a very confusing sighting from a camera point of view. Whereas I wasn't sitting in this seat, I was sitting in Brian's seat, and I definitely am not as good a cameraman as the rest of our camera crew. I was just helping out while someone was a little bit under the weather. I did thoroughly enjoy filming a wild dog hunt though, although I got quite excited, quite often forgot to put the camera away because I was watching the wild dogs. Very, very complicated skill set, a live wildlife cameraman. Very, very different and very unique, and I'm quite confident in saying we have the best live wildlife cameraman in the world. There's no one who comes near to our guys. Sandy is chatting about an incredible sighting we had last night, and we managed to have an almost perfect visual of a large spotted genet very close to us. And Sandy's wondering about when and where they have cubs. So they use quite often little hollowed out trees as one of their favorite spots to give birth in. Hello, impalalas. And they can give birth at any time of the year. So there's no particular time when they will give birth. They don't have a season like most predators. Hello, little boy. Now that's last year's baby. You can see his horns have developed quite a bit. And we're sitting with all the guys who've got no girlfriends at the moment. So we're with the little bachelor herd here. Now, I'm guessing that not too far away will be the main sort of group of females with a nice big dominant male. Now, that's not to say one of these guys might not become the dominant male. So there are various different ages amongst these Impala rams that we're dealing with here. So in front, which one? Oh, so let's try it. There we go. Okay. So he is definitely old enough to challenge. And it is always fun. Oh, I think here comes a chase going to be starting. There's a bigger male coming off from behind the bush there, Brian. And I do love the impala rutting season. They make the most incredible noises. So there comes the boy that sent the others scurrying backwards. There he is, in all his glory, you magnificent beastie. There you go, there he is. But yet, he is still part of the crew with no girlfriends. So they haven't really started mating in earnest yet. And the rut will start going on. Now, a lot of you who are dam cam aficionados get quite excited during the rut because now impala make noises that you would never expect to come from such a beautiful, dainty animal. Excuse me, guys, it's got to be on the Game Drive channel for a sec. Andrew, I've just left him open lock. His lullapan's next to the pan. Oh, here's another animal who's about to be starting their rut, the wildebeest. Hello, GNU. So as I was saying, so wildebeest have a slightly different strategy to impala. So impala are semi-nomadic, and the males will hold little territories. So I'm just going to try and turn on the game drive in my ear quickly. They're very loud. Oh, look there. Oh. No, he's just going to have a nice roll. Let's get into a better position. Oh, no, it was a quick roll. Now, wildebeest are great rollers. They really enjoy it. Yes. So this is an adult bull, and he'll defend an open area like this. And he's hoping that he holds a good enough territory that will bring females through to him. And the females will move from bull to bull. So they will mate with multiple bulls, obviously giving them the best chance with genetics. They are funny looking creatures. So even though they might look like a cow, they're not. They are an antelope. Very, very selective grazers, and they do prefer short grass areas to long grass areas, and they'll actually eat between the different species to specifically feed on decreaser grass species. Now, decreaser grass species are the best grass species, even though they sound like they're not, because they're called a decreaser. An increaser grass species is not good. So a decreaser grass species actually increases when it's decreased. So when it is fed on, not overfed on, just fed on the right amount by different animals, then that grass will increase and bloom. But an increaser grass species, on the other hand, is quite often not fed, so it just increases and takes over a whole area. Now, you do need both types of grass species. Morning, not morning, afternoon, Andrew. How are you, sir?
Thanks, man.
Well, enjoy.
Okay,
we'll see you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Sorry about that. Just saying hello to Andrew from Cheetah Plains. So, grasses are very important. So, a lot of people don't realize that your game viewing has pretty much everything to do with your grass and your soil. If you've got good soil, you've got good grass. If you've got good grass, you've got lots of wildebeest and impala and nyala and zebra and big herds of buffalo. And if you've got lots of those, you got lots of leopards and lions and cheetah and wild dogs and hyenas. So it is a completely interconnected system. And that's why a lot of people make the mistake when they go to purchase a home, a holiday home or a timeshare in the bush, and they get to the spot and it's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. Mountains and cliffs and the first, not always, but 99% point of the rule is, if you are sitting in a rocky mountain area, it is very beautiful, yes, but your game viewing will be very, very average, if not poor. So you don't actually want to be in the mountains, so to speak. I'm not saying they're not animals there. They're just not the density that you would get in an area like this. So we just left that big wildebeest bull, and Kimber is wondering, sorry, what was that? Oh, false alarm, sorry. And now my brain is not working. So Kimber was asking a question. Does GNU mean a wildebeest? It is. It's another name. So in East Africa, they're referred to as gnus, or white-bearded or white-tailed gnus. Here, they're blue gnus or blue wildebeest. Now, I have a theory about how the wildebeest got his name, and it is got quite a lot of bones, so to speak. So, when the first Dutch settlers arrived in the Western Cape, around modern-day Cape Town, on their supply runs as they came through the Cape of Storms, I think one of the first animals they ever saw was a wildebeest. And because if we break down the word, wilde, wild, and beest, wild cow. So I think that was probably one of the first animals they saw, and that's how they got its name. But we will chat a little bit more about the differences between gnus when we get back. But James has got a lovely group of pachyderms to entertain you for the next while.
There, everybody, is the half-trunk herd of elephants. And the little one is doing very well, as you can see, despite its mother's slight defect and having 1/3 of her trunk missing. You can see her there. She's having her drink. And it's back to 4 of them now. There were 5 at one stage, but now we don't know for sure whether these are all 3 her offspring, or whether 2 of them are her offspring and 1 is a sibling. I think that sort of larger one there in the middle is most likely a sibling. Now, there's all sorts of alarm calling going on around us. We can hear some dwarf mongoose calling, and we can hear some squirrels coming through the camp. There were leopard tracks around here, but I think they headed straight to where Tingana was. So I'm not sure what they'd be shouting at. Anyway, there go the elephants. We'll just keep looking around here. It does sound like the kind of call that they make when there's an eagle in the sky. I'm now, of course, putting to use the lessons taught to me by the Grace Renayas Tingana Mhlongo, master tracker. This is a lovely question from Susan in Florida. And I mean, we kind of explain it, but not explain it relatively often. Susan, it's a very good question. Oh, Viam, just quickly before we missed it. There was a lovely rainbow hanging from that buffalo's nose. But it has mercifully fallen off into the water. Sorry about that. Susan, a very good question. It is exactly the same as when you fidget in a sort of slightly awkward social situation. So if you are meeting people you don't know for the first time, and sometimes, you put your hand in your pocket, some people will smoke, some people will just pretend to drink out of an empty drink, and that's called displacement behavior. And often elephants do that when they're feeling slightly uncomfortable, or they're just kind of assessing what's going on. They're just it's exactly the same as you kind of doing this when you meet somebody, or you're trying to decide whether you should engage in a conversation, or, you're meeting people at a party you don't really know that well, and it's exactly that kind of behavior. And some elephants do it more than others, in the same way that some people do it more than others, and some will just not bother at all. And sometimes people will tell you it's a precursor to them sort of becoming aggressive or unhappy. It isn't really. It's just simply them demonstrating that they're a little bit uncomfortable and they're just having a bit of a fidget. Anyway, we didn't make it past the lions before because we went to find a new earpiece, and I can now hear you talking to me with crystalline clarity, which is much of a relief. So I think we'll now head down Twin Dams Road and see if we can't find what those Birmingham boys have been doing. I do know that Aubrey was looking at them a little bit earlier, so they are there. but they aren't doing anything. So I don't think we're missing out on anything. So maybe let's just sit for a little bit longer with these elephants as they walk through this gorgeous, gorgeous green grass. And you can see when I left here, they were starting to do a bit of grazing, but still the elephants were largely browsing. And this, of course, is what elephants should be doing at this time of the year, eating the soft, nutritious grass shoots. It's such a peaceful little herd. This there, you can see all of their sizes beautifully. And I don't think that the 2/3 trunk female is old enough to have that second biggest one there as a youngster, unless she had it very, very young. I think the adult, that female there, the 2/3 trunk female, can't be much more than 18, 20 years old. She's not old at all. And that other next biggest one, you can just see Vuatela camp there in the background, all the guests on game drive. The one in the next biggest one, I think, is at least 10. So, yeah, you know, I mean, that would have put a birthing age at 8, which is not 8 to 10 years old, which is not entirely impossible. Let's say I'm out by 2 years on each of them, then it's possible. Maybe that's what the case is. And you can see lovely softening of the light. And it's always amazing to me, you know, even when there's just a bit of moisture hanging in the air, look at all the flies there. Isn't that beautiful? Even when there's just a bit of moisture hanging in the air, the light tends to soften that much earlier. I suppose also it is starting, like I said earlier, to get darker much earlier. It's not often you have a fly sighting there. We've got beautiful fly sighting, and you say, what a lovely sighting of the flies, do we, Viam?
No.
No.
We should do more flies.
We should do more flies, I agree. Would you prefer them to giraffe?
I like flies.
You like flies. You don't like giraffe, though, do you?
I once saw a fly steal a sugar cube and fly away with it.
There we go. That's actually, it's really beautiful. Look at them catching the light there. I tell you what, it's not often that a fly makes it into the top sighting of the day, but I think we may have a world first going on here. Look at them, they're moving above the ear as the ear moves. Almost, look, that's incredible. And again, it's a little bit like, I mean, I hope your screens are of sufficient quality to be seeing this, but again, it's a little bit like like a bait ball, a fish, or like there's huge flocks of starlings and quailias. You see how they move in the same direction. They all seem to know exactly where to go at the same time. I think that's brilliant, I must say. We had some incredible flying termite sightings, of course, just before I went on leave. And now we have a magnificent sighting of flies, a swarm of flies. Nobody ever wrote a song about the fly. It wasn't an insult, I feel. Maybe now is the time.
There was a movie about the fly.
Yes, that wasn't particularly complimentary, though, was it, Viam? The fly.
I guess not.
No, it was a source of great terror, in fact. Oh, this is just stunning. That little one there, you can see, is moving in a line that has been dug, and that's the fiber optic cable that leads up to the final control. Oh, he's digging it out. Looks like he's digging it out. Let me move a little closer. And that's the only reason, of course, that you get that lovely high-definition feed from the water hole over here. It's because the camera over there, which is in the tree, as we go past, is attached by fiber optic cable that this little elephant is now digging out of the ground. There they are. And all the way in the background, we've got a whole lot of Nyala and Impala, and the Nyala are starting to fight, and so are the Impala. Now, Billy, a brilliant question from you. What are the ramifications of an elephant like this missing the bottom third of her trunk? Billy, if I didn't have personal experience of it, I would have said pretty severe, given the fact that she does not have the prehensile tip. Now, prehensile basically means like fingers. So normally an elephant that has its full trunk has got, Vian will show you there, has got two little fingers on the end of the trunk, and those are very dexterous. They'll be able to pick up tiny things like individual marula fruits, for example. Now, the big cow in this, well, it's relatively big, the largest cow in this herd, cannot do that anymore, but she's compensated. So for her, the ramifications, I think, are minimal. What it does mean is that she uses her foot more when she grazes. She can't hold the grass in the same way, so she'll kind of grip it a little bit, and then between her foot and her trunk, and then pull it out the ground, and then eat it that way. She'll chew a lot more leaves off of trees rather than using her trunk all the time. And things like marula fruits, she'll just vacuum off the floor and then blow them into her mouth. So she manages. Just like with so many examples of animals dealing with disabilities out here in the absence of any kind of medical care, they just kind of get on. And I think it's a great indication because, you know, so often we see an injured animal, we think, oh, shouldn't we do something about that? Shouldn't we get the vet in, or, you know, try and help the animal in some way? And 9 times out of 10, those kind of interventions result in tragedy. Whereas if we just let the elephants and the other animals get on with it, they tend to recover remarkably well. Hyenas, brilliant example. A lot of them injured often, and they just seem to recover. Hello, Gracie, age 8. Very kind welcome backs from you. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I did miss chatting with you on the afternoon game drives. I know you're not allowed to watch the morning ones because you have to sleep. But Gracie, you say you told your grandfather that you also fidget like the elephants, even though you're not sure what fidgeting means. Gracie, you do actually know what fidgeting means, because I guarantee you do it. You're only aged 8, of course, which means fidgeting is part of your daily life, as indeed it is mine. But that's because that's for other reasons. I have an attention deficit disorder. But fidgeting, Gracie, is when you fiddle with your hands. So if you were, let's pretend you were sitting at a meal and eating, and instead of eating, you were playing with a salt cellar, or you were playing with a knife that you weren't using. That's called fidgeting. And that's exactly what an elephant's doing when it is playing with its hind legs like that. Now, all spread across this clearing, we have some impalas grazing peacefully, but not for much longer, because as I'm sure Brent told you earlier, the males are starting to come into the rut. And Viempi, there's one there just starting to headbutt a bush. Can you see him there? There he is, well spotted. You can see that's kind of territorial behavior. He's trying to show that he's going to set up a territory around here, and he'd like to keep some ladies around with him. Of course, if he's doing it this early in the year, he is wasting his time, because the females will only come into estrus they'll only be receptive to mating during the dark phase of the moon in May. And so while all of these males are starting to set up territories quite early, and they'll start herding the females fairly soon and fighting with each other, they can only maintain that behavior for about 2 weeks at a time before the lack of nutrition, because they forget to eat, of course, because all they can think about is sex. And so they don't eat. And what that means is that they become weak, and eventually their territories get taken over. So if you want to mate as an impala ram, you've got to time your territorial behavior almost exactly to coincide with the dark phase of the moon in May. Hello, Doodles. Again, another Twitter handle that was probably not given to you by your mother. Doodles, you want to know about how long this greenery will survive, given that we're probably at the end of the rainy season. And you're right, I mean, we probably had about a third of the rain that we should have, well, I say should have, that we would normally have by this time of year. Doodles, this greenery will last probably, I don't think, much more than 4 weeks before it'll go if we don't have further rain. I'm not sure if we will. I mean, April, there's always a chance in April that you're going to have rain. But after that, it's going to get a bit hairy. So time will tell. You can still see there is dust around. I mean, it's not like there are great puddles of standing water anymore. The grasses and flowers have thrown up their inflorescences and flowers just for the last kind of, sort of last embers of the summer, if you like. And you can see there the grass stalks, and you can also see those little flashes of white, which are the strings of stars. Beautiful wild flowers that we get here. And they're classic examples, in fact, interestingly, of areas that have been overgrazed. So they will grow up in areas where there is no grass, in the absence of grass competition. So they are all over quarantine clearings, those things now. I can't believe how many there are compared with the day when I left, almost exactly 2 weeks ago. All right, let's turn around, see if we can see what those lions are doing. So, Sean in Secunda, interesting one about how that elephant lost a trunk. And could it have been a crocodile, you say? Yes, it could have. And I mean, in the absence of human beings in the area, I would say that's precisely what it was. I suppose it could have been a lion or a hyena as well when she was very little. But, of course, we are living in an area where there are quite a few human beings, and every so often people get into the reserve and they set snares. Now, a snare is a fairly nasty way to kill an animal, but if you're a starving human being and you want to catch an impala for your family, that's often the easiest way to do it. And sometimes elephants are victims of those snares. There's a marabou stork there, Vim, that we saw landing here earlier. And so it could have been a snare as well that got caught around the trunk and eventually made the trunk fall off. And there you can see a marabou stork. Quite obviously the most ugly bird in all of Africa. And all around you can hear the birds again, ring-necked doves. There the impala starting to fight with each other. There'll be a territorial ram up here somewhere. Unless they're alarm calling. Vimpy? What do you think?
They're not running.
Seem to be looking this way. No, they're looking at something. There's something behind us, Vim. They've spotted something. Let's keep an eye out, everybody. It's not a very strident alarm call, but you can see how they all came forward and looked. There are two more looking now. The buffalo don't look particularly panicked by any of that. And the impala have stopped. If it was a leopard, I think those impala would be going crazy. So probably not. All right, let's head down Twin Dams Road, and we'll see if we... Oh, now they're going again. Just going to do one quick reverse up, and then we'll go and see if we can find those lions. Hello, Lael in Washington. Nice question. What birds, other than ducks and geese, migrate in a kind of in a V? Lael, the storks all do it. They're very good at flying in a V. A non-migratory bird that moves around the area in a V is something called a sacred ibis. They do it quite a lot. What else have I seen migrating like that? I guess for little birds it doesn't make much difference. You see, what flying in a V does is reduce the drag. So if you can get into the slipstream behind another bird, it means that the drag is less, and so it's just much more efficient. But if you're a little bird like a willow warbler, or even probably something as the size of a flocking bird the size of a European bee-eater, I think you'll find that it doesn't make any difference. So I think you've got to be a big bird and a flocking bird, and then that will tend to be the behavior that you employ when you migrate. So stork's a good one. None of the raptors here, of course, migrate in flocks, and so things like Wahlberg's eagles and those sorts of things won't migrate in a V. So ducks and geese and storks, I guess, will be the answer to that one. All right, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith. He is checking out all of the leopard sites in the area.
So we just have left the Moati River system. We had a quick squiz around where Karula had that Inyala kill. There is no meat left, so unfortunately she's probably not going to be meandering back to visit at that particular site. But what is very interesting, I've noticed, she seems to be keeping her cubs in the south there, but she's doing the majority of her hunting on Djuma. So we do find her tracks often crossing that southern boundary. So I am really hoping that she's gonna pop across with those little bundles of joy very, very shortly. Now, as you know, it's not all about the elephants and the lions and the leopards and things. Quite often we do get to see some amazing little stuff. Now, if we're going to have a look in here, just having a quick check to see if there are any interesting bugs or beetles around this weeping wattle. Now, they've actually flowered twice this year, some of them, and they flowered initially when we had the first rains, and they were completely covered in different fruit chafers and beetles, and then some of them are flowering again. And if we come out, we can actually see it's almost doubling its chances this year. Let's go here, there, right? You can see the seed pods from the first flowering, and then the green ones are the next one. So hopefully the peltiforums will have baby peltiforums all over the place. There you go. And before this second bout of rain, the elephants, who don't frequently feed off weeping wattles, were actually feeding off them a lot because there wasn't that much other food around. So this is the spot where we saw that large spotted genet last night. Oh. You got him, B? He went behind.
Yeah, I got him in the middle.
Oh, there we go. And he's back. Oh, there we go. Hello, little blue waxbill. Oh, such pretty little birds. One of the more difficult ones to get on camera. And for our new viewers out there, listen to them call. Zzz, 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 off he goes. For our new viewers out there, a lot of our viewers, we encourage you guys to keep lists of all the different things you see. And there's some incredible bird lists. I think Mike in California has with us on the live safari seen 250 odd different species. So it is quite fun to get into the birding. So keep a list of the birds you see. You can keep a list of the plants. You can keep a list of the animals. Now, we are busy, I'm busy doing a self-challenge to see how many members of the order Carnivora we can get on the camera. And I think we're sitting on about 14, which is really good going. And some of the ones that we're missing are quite difficult to find. So I'm only counting the species that you catch on camera with me. and it has to be live, otherwise it doesn't count. And we are experiencing some of the most wonderful light at the moment. Beautiful, beautiful light. And I saw a beautiful bird. I'm hoping it's stopped in the light. And I think it's going to be one of our last chances to see this bird. They've gone almost silent, and I haven't been seeing too many of them around, and it's the woodlands kingfishers. They are going to be heading for warmer climes shortly, heading up into North and Central Africa as we head into our winter months. And I am hoping to have one last incredible woodlands kingfisher. Look at this, absolutely gorgeous. Now, Brian and I were having a chat while you guys were with James, and we were just saying how incredible it is to do what we do in an area like this and be surrounded by wildlife and a great group of people. So we are extremely lucky, and we really do love taking all of you out on the drive with us and sharing our passion and love and knowledge for Africa and all her incredible beasties. So, Ms. Kiz, on her second Alive safari, welcome back. Ms. Kiz would like to know how many of these animals will relocate for the winter. From the mammal species, none. There will be some local movements to and from different feeding areas and water holes, but there are no mass migrations away. The things that will leave us are the birds. So certainly the woodlands kingfishers have started departing. The European swallows have already hit the southern coast of England, so they've been gone for a week or two already. The warbirds, steppe eagles, lesser spotted eagles, they're all going to also head off. The common buzzard or steppe buzzard. So most of the bird species are the ones that we're going to lose. They're going to migrate off. But our mammal species are going to be pretty stable around here. Now, we had a very bad rainy season this year. We probably had less than half of what we normally get. And most of the rain we did get was right at the end of what is our traditional rainy season. So even though it looks wonderful and green and there's lots of grass around at the moment, this rain has fallen right at the end of the growing season. So theoretically, there should be a lot more grass. I mean, the grass should be almost waist high on me. So it probably should be 3 foot, 4 foot high, but it isn't. So we are going to go through in an incredible dry season. Now, it is going to be tough if you're an impala or if you're a zebra. But if you're a lion or a leopard or a hyena, you literally, if they could, they would have the Cheshire Cat grin. So it's going to be a very good time for predators. Oh, look at that. Speaking of birds and big birds, and they're going to be around for the whole of the year. And if the lions are having a good time, so are the white-backed vultures. And a fork-tailed drongo, by the looks of things, or a starling. I can't really see. I just need to find my binoculars. There he is. Oh, he's dropped. Okay, well, it was a small bird, either a starling or a drongo. A bit difficult to see, but isn't that stunning? There's that quintessential African vulture silhouette. Beautiful. Now, I don't think that vulture is sitting above any meat. So there are some vultures' nests in this area. And also, at the end of the day, they come to these areas to roost. So they're not going to be shooting off and dropping down. And also, seeing a single vulture like that it's unlikely that there's going to be any kills. They would need to see multiple vultures, and you want to see multiple vultures in the trees, because if there are multiple vultures in the trees, there's something on the ground that's keeping them off the potential food source. So James has made his way to go visit the proverbial king of the beasts. So let's go have a look.
There, behold everybody, is the king of the jungle. Now bear in mind, of course, when they made the Lion King, in which Mufasa and Scar and all the rest of them were walking around almost on a continual basis, imagine how long it must have taken them to film that, given that lions do mostly what this lot are doing here. Nothing. They're just lying about the place in a state of corpulent repose, very comfortable indeed. And of course that is their right as the king of the jungle and the most terrifying predator out here, other than us, of course. So I don't think we're going to spend long here, simply because we can come back a little bit later when it gets dark, and we'll see what they're going to do there. So before it gets too dark, what I would like to do is move on and try and just get a view of the hyena den. I think that might be quite a nice idea. I've missed my hyenas while I've been away. Is that all right with you, Viam? Unless you'd like to stare at the back end of these lions. No, we can go check the hyenas. Okay, super, thank you. Anyway. Oh. I must say, it doesn't amaze me that almost every time I see a lion, it manages to put itself into an even less elegant position than it was before. Right. We can drive quite quickly. Just see if those hyenas are in the same place. Now, they had moved well, at least 3 of them had moved by the time I left last time. The day before I left for leave, they had moved. So I'm not sure exactly where they are at the moment. BMB, you say Aubrey's Road still?
No,
yes?
But the old den is actually here.
The old den?
Old Aubrey's Den.
The old Aubrey's Den. Good. Excellent. It's not the most salubrious neighbourhood they've ever been in, but I'm sure they'll be okay. Now, I was also told today that it was necessary to take a jacket on drive because it gets a bit cool at night. Now, I failed to heed this because I couldn't believe that the temperature was going to drop sufficiently for me to need a jersey. Yeah? Do you think it's going to be quite cool?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But you need to be prepared.
You need to be prepared, yes. Is that why you grew your beard?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well done.
And it also keeps the flies away.
Keeps the flies away.
And in case of lion attack.
Yes, in case of lion attack. So the temperature is still at 33 degrees, everybody, which is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's still very balmy and pleasant out here. Lots more moisture in the air than there was earlier in the summer. And it no longer looks like a winterscape. And as I say, every corner you go around has got a kind of real January, February smell to it, where there's a smell of mud, a smell of flowers, and I just got a kind of, I don't know what the word is. I used the word tropical earlier. It's not tropical. It's kind of almost a swampy type of a smell. That's not the right word either. But it's that kind of a smell because there's so much water around. That will unfortunately disappear fairly soon, I think. But hopefully it'll last a little bit. And of course this green does look so very beautiful this late afternoon light. Hello, Mike in Florida. Sorry about that, the signal went a little bit unstable. Mike in Florida, you want to see if I want to know if I saw any animals while I was on leave? I did. I saw some cattle. I saw some horses. I even rode some of those horses, which was good fun. I didn't fall off, which was even better fun. But in terms of wild animals, no, I didn't. I'll tell you why I didn't. A lot of it, I was up in the mountains around Sabi, like I said. And while they used to be sort of open grasslands on the crests, and then in the crevices, this really beautiful, natural, hard yellow wood forest, that's all been taken out now, and it's now a pine and gum forest, commercial pine and gum forest. And so there's not a great deal of sort of indigenous wildlife there anymore, which is a bit sad. And that one day that we did go riding horses, we went through a pine forest, and the pine forest is it's deathly silent, of course, because we don't have birds that can live in an environment like that. A pine tree, which in the North America is common, is certainly well, it's an exotic species here, and those pine plantations here make extremely acidic soil underneath, and none of the local vegetation is able to cope with that. So it's very quiet in those pine forests. But other than horses and cattle, I saw a couple of dogs, of course. I think one cat. Definitely a cat, yes. Other than that, well, I mean, the normal sort of animals you find around Johannesburg of the humankind. Lots of human animals running around Johannesburg, banking and lawyering and accounting and basically just running the economy. I'm not sure they're the same species as Veerman either. Wonderful golden countryside light on my face. It's been a long time since I felt that, of course. We're now on to quarantine clearings, and as we go past here, what you should notice, of course, is, well, I mean, you've been watching the greenery coming up slowly, but very little of that, or some of it, but not a lot of it. As you look over there is grass. Much of it is this pioneer vegetation, like those strings of stars, those strings of star flowers, which I will just quickly grab you right over here. Many of you will know what these are, of course. You appreciate my acrobatics there, Vim.
Yes.
There is the string of stars, and that's all over quarantine clearings here. And it's, like I say, a pioneer vegetation. All right, let's head to Brent. We're going to drive quite quickly to the hyena den now, and I'll see you there.